Is there going to be, is there any, see if there's any interest.
I'm interested.
We're always interested.
Oh,
I
okay.
will be gone. We're touring with my granddaughter most of the next 3 weeks.
Rabbi First is going to have his normal schedule. Should I indicate that you're going to have your normal schedule?
Yeah, okay. Okay,
Great, thank you.
okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah, right. Right, okay. So that's the and yeah, I mean, the Pele Yoetz is mentioning this over here. The Chilul Hashem, desecration of Hashem's name. So he says it's more severe than it's the most severe it's the most severe severely judged sin. That's what he means to say. Even a sin which involves chorus or Mrs. Besdin. It's more severe than that even. So, and he's including over here. It's not only what other Jews say, but also what even non-Jews say as well. It's also included in the prohibition of Chilul Hashem. Right. Okay.
I'm sorry, what do you mean what non-Jews say? What are you referring to?
As
Okay,
Pele Yoetz said, that if a Jew lies to a goy, then the goy is going to say the Jews have no Torah because they're not honest. And that causes it. So it's what the goy is saying is called Chilul Hashem.
So the Jew is guilty of Chilul Hashem by leading the non-Jew to say something bad?
Correct.
Ah, I see. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
And you never
So
realize,
Yeah.
a story, you never realize the effect of your words have. I once worked for a company in North Carolina, and we used to have a golf league. We would go out one day each week after work, we all play golf together. Okay. And if you ever play golf, golf is a very frustrating game. No matter how hard you try, you never succeed. That's just the nature of the game. And I've been there about 3 years, and the people I was playing with, one of the guys walked up to me and says, you never curse. Because you just know, and I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I didn't do it, but the fact that I didn't do it was even noticeable to other people. And I think that was, a Kiddush Hashem, and that's that's the way Jews act. You don't use language like that. And even without knowing I was not doing it or whatever, it was noticeable to other people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So that's That's a Kiddush Hashem. Right, so that's, he mentions over here about the severity of Chil Hashem in the negative mitzvahs, but we have to also emphasize on the other side, Midah Tova, Meruba,
Mhm.
the great mitzvah involved in making a Kiddush Hashem.
Mhm.
That people notice that that's a Kiddush Hashem. So
Mhm.
that's right. Okay. Very good. So here we are. We're on section 22, and we're going to turn to Eliezer.
Okay. Mitzvahs say, Velosa say, Medivri Sofrim, Hatulim Biyadayim. Mitzvahs, positive and negative mitzvahs that are from the rabbis that depend on our hands, I guess depend on actions. Mitzvahs Natil Shadayim La'achila, Ola Davar She Tubulo B'mashka. Is a mitzvah to wash your hands before eating, or I guess when you're touching some, your tibula is to title something in a little. I'm not quite sure what he's saying. Davar tibuli b'mashka. Is this something that was muksa l'kabel tuma before you touch
Yes.
it? You need, okay, so this is like for food that became wet is muksa l'kabel tuma. You should wash your hands before touching it. Okay. Mitzvah mayim achronim chova. The mitzvah of mayim achronim after you eat is an obligation. The hameka ba mikilin lo yamav v'shanosav, and somebody who is mekel in that is mekel on his days and his years. Uvizohar kadosh machmir ma'od, and the Zohar Kadosh is machmir is very strict about this. Mitzvahs netilas yadayim l'tefila afilu yadav nikios is mitzvah to wash your hands before davening, even if your hands are clean. Mitzvahs adlachas ner b'Shabbos is a mitzvah to light candles on Shabbos. Mitzvahs adlachas ner b'Chanukah, it's a mitzvah to light the candles on Chanukah. Mitzvahs eruve chatzeros, it's a mitzvah to make eruve chatzeros in order to carry in the chutzner. Mitzvah eruve tavshilin, it's a mitzvah to make eruv tavshilin in order to prepare from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Lavasho miyom to the Shabbos, to cook from Yom Tov for Shabbos. Mishachar Beis HaMikdash, when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Hitu Rabbeinu Zichronim Levracha, our sages Zichronim Levracha, Shech Chasan Nose Isha Lokech Afar Makla V'Notah Barosho Makom Shanas Tefillin. That when when a Chasan is getting married, they would take dirt and rub it on his forehead in the place where he puts his tefillin. Okay, v'chein kishasad base habayis mishayer ama al ama, and similarly when you're neged hapesach below sid, and similarly when you're building a house, you should leave a square, an amma by an amma, near the door that is not finished, and that is Zechel Chorban. Matanas Aniyim Shehem Min HaTorah Be'eretz Yisrael. Gifts to the poor are from a Torah obligation in Israel. Could go and pay a lekev shikra or peret olos bekerem. The gifts to the poor people that are described in the Torah for Eretz Yisrael, such as the peah, the leaving over a corner of your field, the leket is leaving over sheaves, the shikva is grain that got dropped, uperet olos bekerem, these are various types of grapes that were left over in the vineyards. While these are derived in Eretz Yisrael, outside of Eretz Yisrael, these are only Medivrei Sofrim. Aser la'adam sheyasem malacha me'achar sha'ala amada shachar ad shetfilah tefillah shacharis. It is aser for a person to do work from the time the sun comes up until he has prayed Shacharis. Asos Malacha Be'eruv Shabbos Eruv Yomim Tovim Mina Mincha Lamala. It is usher for a person to do work on Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, from Mincha until sunset. Where Pesach Mechatzos Hayom usher. And on Pesach from midday it is usher. I guess it's like a half-hour difference in time in that case. Havel Yom Rishon usher liach tefillin, and an avel on the first day of his avalis is usher to put on tefillin. Yom Sheni ad Netzachama, and on the second day it's usher until Netzachama, until the sun comes up. The Kol Shloshim Yom usher be'asiyas malacha, and the first 3 days is usher to do malacha. I feel ani mis parnes min tzedakah, even a poor person who is supported by the tzedakah fund. Mekan ve'elach, and from the 4th day on, Imhaya ani osa betsina toch beto. If a person is poor, he can work inside his house. He can work privately inside his house. V'shachar beis hamikdash gazru chachamim zikron levracha shelo yinagin b'kli shir. When the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the chacham were gozer that they would not use musical instruments at chas. This is at all fine. The kol mine mashmir kol also lismoach bahem v'olas l'shamtem, and all types of musical instruments are also to have joy from them or to listen to them. Even songs that are usher completely, except for songs of praise to Hashem. Also, and it's usher to plant klei kerem, which is mixed grains in your vineyards. Outside of Israel is midivrei sofrim.
Right. Okay. Very good. That's Huff Base 22. Wow, I wasn't aware of this Zohar. He first brought a Zohar about the my Machronim.
Yep. Me neither.
People are very say, oh, that's not my minhag. First of all, the Shulchan Aruch says Choba, but and the Mishnah Berurah supports him, but anyway, so that's something to see. And okay. All right, 23. 23. We go to Lou for 23, please.
Positive and negative mitzvot of the Torah which depend on the legs. Positive mitzvot. It is a mitzvah to fully stand on for one's father or mother. Rav Yosef, who was blind, when he would hear the sound of his mother's footsteps, would stand and say, I stand for the divine presence which is coming. A child is ever obligated to stand 100 times a day for his parents. One is also obligated to stand for a grandfather, a grandmother, or his mother's husband, or his father's wife. The mitzvah of honoring one's parents includes when one's father or mother sent him to perform a certain task, and he must go immediately and with alacrity. It is a mitzvah to fully stand before a Torah scholar when he comes within 4 amos, about 6 feet, of the place a person is sitting, even if the sage is not elderly. It's a mitzvah to fully understand before an elder person over the age of, to fully stand before an elderly person over the age of 60. A person who is accustomed to these practices merits the fear of heaven. It is a mitzvah to stand before a Torah scroll. It is a mitzvah to stand when one is testifying. It is a mitzvah to visit sick people and to make an effort to provide everything that they need. Whoever does not visit the infirm, it is as if he spills blood. It is a mitzvah to accompany for a short distance a person who is embarking on a journey. Whoever does not accompany him is as if he spills blood. Whoever accompanies him, even 4 amot in the city, will not be harmed, and his reward has no limit. It is a mitzvah to accompany a deceased person until he is buried. Whoever sees a funeral procession and does not accompany the deceased for a distance of at least 4 amos will be severely punished. Like one who blasphemes Hashem, it is a mitzvah to stand when one prays Shemona Esrei, the silent prayer. Likewise, the mitzvah of Omer, waving the barley stalks after the first day of Pesach, tzitzit, the tikiot, that is blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, must be done while standing. The mnemonic device for this is the counsel of God stands forever. The mitzvah of chalitza, the removal of the shoe done by the widow to her surviving brother-in-law, is done on 1 foot. It's done to a foot.
Right. Mitzvahs chalitza.
Eliezer, stop blocking traffic.
Speaking of which, sort of, it's talking about being the love of the mace.
Yeah.
If I was walking with my granddaughter on Sunday, there was a big levaya on Sunday, and we were walking down to Geula, and the streets, they were doing his, I guess they were doing his spadim over, I didn't even know where the mace was, but doing his spadim over the loudspeakers. And like Strauss and Yechezkel were just like impossible to pass. They were just packed with people. Is the listening to the espadim considered Malavla mace, or is actually mamish when the mace is being taken to the kever?
Yeah, being mishtatef in the hespedim is not a mitzvah of levaya. I mean, it's participating in the certainly it's a mitzvah to say the hespedim, and it's a mitzvah, of course, for people to listen to the hespedim.
Mm-hmm.
But technically speaking, it's not. There's this mitzvah of levaya is when the mace is being moved toward. It's being taken to the Beis HaChaim, to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in order to do that mitzvah of takes about 5 seconds, you have to wait 3 hours. You're saying
something like that. It was an incredible crowd.
Yeah, well, it was in accord with the person that was nifter. Yeah. So, Right. That's the right. Yeah. Levaya, right. Right. Levaya Sames, it says. Okay. So we're up to, okay, we are up to the next paragraph. Negative mitzvos. Page 43, we go to Alan to do the negative mitzvahs on page 43.
Negative mitzvahs is prohibited to go beyond the Shabbos boundary, which is defined as 2,000 amos beyond the city limits. Is prohibited to return to settle in the land of Egypt. Is prohibited to bow before an idol. Included in this is not to pray in a building which there is an idol in the presence of the idol, not to bow down to a Gentile who is wearing an idol, not to bend down when entering a building in which there is an idol. One should enter backwards and not bow down to pick up something which fell before an idol without turning his back to the idol. It's prohibited to prostrate oneself on a stone floor, even for Hashem, except in the holy temple. Prostration which is done with the protrusion of one's hand and feet, is prohibited by the Torah. Without protrusion of hands and feet, it is rabbinically proscribed. Therefore, it's necessary to spread mats or boards in synagogues in which have stone floors when the prostration is done.
Right. So, yeah, so that, of course, becomes relevant when we have the Yomim Noroyim, and we have Aleinu, and we have the different times that we bow during the Avodas Yom Kippur, because most of our shuls the floor is marble, whereas so in Chutz La'aretz, the floor is generally not made out of stone, so I guess you don't have that. You don't see that so much in Chutz La'aretz. If anybody remembers what it was like to daven the Yomim Noroyim in Chutz La'aretz.
Yeshivas generally are stone floors.
Yeshivas are stone floors. Okay.
They're tile floors. The shul is carpet, but the yeshivas are generally tile.
Oh, okay. Very good. Okay. Section 24, positive and negative mitzvahs of rabbinic origin. Depending on the legs, we go back to Mayor to continue the second round.
Positive and negative mitzvot of rabbinic origin that depends on the legs. Positive mitzvot. It is a mitzvah to run to the synagogue and the Beit HaMidrash, and to run to do every mitzvah, even on Shabbat. It is a mitzvah to be counted among the first 10 men in the synagogue for prayer. It is a mitzvah to align one's legs during the silent prayer and Kedusha. It is a mitzvah to bow at the knee for the first and second blessing of Avot in the silent prayer. In the first and second blessings of Hodah, thanksgiving, also in the silent prayer. In Oseh Shalom, and together with the Chazan for Modim. It is a mitzvah to take 3 steps back by Oseh Shalom, like one who is taking leave of a king. There's a mitzvah to stand for the blessing of the new moon, like one who is greeting the divine presence. There's a mitzvah to visit one's Rebbe on the 3 festivals. There's a mitzvah to greet one's Rebbe or friend who has traveled to meet him. There's a mitzvah to go to the house of a mourner in order to console him. It is a mitzvah to go to a wedding. One is required to make an effort to travel an extra 4 milin, approximately 2 miles, in order to pray with 10 men and not by himself. It is if the minyan is in the opposite direction of his traveling, one only has to return 1 mil. These same rules apply to someone traveling, that is, in regard to obtaining water for ritually washing one's hands in the morning for Shacharit. It is a mitzvah to run to greet Gentile kings. If one merits, he will discern the difference between Gentile and Jewish kings. A person needs to refrain from associating with a person who has an angry temperament. A person needs to distance himself from a bad neighbor. A person must avoid associating with an evil person. A person who has suffering or sickness in his home should go to a Torah scholar and request that the sage beseech heaven to have pity upon him. As it says in Mishlei, the anger of the king is like the angels of death, but a wise man will placate it.
Okay, very good. And now once again, we go to that was the positive mitzvahs, and now we have the losases, not to do. On page 44. Oh, and actually it's Eliezer's turn, so he can do the losases.
Let's just say, Asra Livsoa Pasia Gasa, Kajiosi Basic Knesses. It's usher to take large steps when you're leaving the basic Knesses. Also, Livsoa Pasia Gasa B'Shabbos, Afilu B'Chol Lo Hutra. It's usher to take large steps on Shabbos, and even during weekdays, it's not permitted, or
That's what it says, yeah. What's the, right.
In Hutra seems like the wrong word to be using for chol. Like, you want, if it's usher on Shabbos, I'm not quite sure what he's trying to say. Anyhow, Hakadosh Baruch Hu shona l'mi shenichas beis pitom v'kol shekain lebeis chavero. Hashem hates the person who enters his house quickly and certainly enters his neighbor's house. The first should knock before you walk in the door, even on your own house. Kivin sheniftach sefer Torah. Also, it says ki'im bein gavra legavra. Once they start once they've opened the sefer Torah, it's usher to leave the shul unless it's between aliyahs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and the person leaves, it said the Ozve Hashem Yichlu. It's in Yeshaya. Ozve Hashem is the ones who hate Hashem are leaving.
Forsake. Ozev.
Okay.
Yichlu. Yeah.
Okay. Also, Leshev or La'avar Neged Hamisparo Ad Shiachich Arba Amas. It's usher to sit or cross in front of the person who's davening unless you're 4 amas away from them. Usher Lavar Acharei Beis Knesses B'Shah Hatzibur Mispal Mipnei Chashad. It's usher to walk behind the shul when at the time people are praying because of danger. What's chashad?
Draws suspicion to you. How come you're not davening there with them?
Okay. Asher lelech arba amos bli netilas yadayim la'achar sheyashan. It's usher to walk 4 amas without washing your hands after you've slept. Asher lelech arba amos bekuma zakufa o begilui rosh. It's usher to walk 4 amas. What's a kuma zakufa?
in a matter of arrogance.
Or
Kufa
arrogance?
Kufa means like totally erect.
Okay. Obergilu Rosha, with your head uncovered. Ki malo kol haaretz kavodo, because the whole earth is filled with Hashem's honor. Mitzvah Rabba la chabev es Eretz Yisrael. It is a great mitzvah to love Israel. The lovo alecha me'afse haaretz b'tshuka gedola keben el chek imo. So it's a mitzvah to love the individual and to go there and to walk in the land. Like what's it, Shuka Gedola?
Shuka is a desired.
With great desire, as a son walking with his mother.
Kaven el chek imo, to like a son into his right into his mother's embrace. Wow, that's the picture of coming to Eretz Yisrael. You're going back to your mother's embrace. And to come to Eretz Yisrael from all the ends of the earth, Afse ha'oretz, b'tshuka gedola, with a great desire, like a son who's looking to come to his mother's embrace. Okay, very good. Chaf hey, mitzvah saseh min Torah, tuliyim berosh hagvia. Well, who's going to be honored with this mitzvah? This reading is Lou, number 25. Okay, Alan.
Yeah.
25.
Positive mitzvahs of the Torah, which depend on the male organ. Is a mitzvah to circumcise one's son. Is a mitzvah to circumcise converts. Is a mitzvah to betroth a woman with money, with a document, or through marital relations. Is a mitzvah to procreate. If a man had children who died, he did not fulfill his obligation unless he was survived by a son and daughter. Is a mitzvah to be intimate with one's wife at the appointed time for the sake of heaven. Is a mitzvah to be celibate close to the arrival of his wife's menstrual cycle. If a husband was having marital relations with his wife when she was permitted to him and then she began menstruating, she's obligated to tell him. At that point, he is not allowed to move back and forth inside of her or remove his organ while it's still erect. He must wait until its blood flow has subsided. It is a mitzvah to be celibate with one's wife if one found that she acted immorally. It is a mitzvah for a man who is divorcing his wife to give her a get according to the laws of Moshe in Israel. It's a mitzvah to perform liberate marriage. It's a mitzvah to sanctify oneself also in these things that are permitted to him, and not to be a glutton or drunkard or passionately in pursuit of the delights of this world. Person should be cautious of excessive speech. Husband should not be lustfully desirous of his wife and cohabit with her frequently like a rooster. He should diminish his intimacy with her and only to have marital relations as necessary to fulfill a mitzvah of procreation. It is a mitzvah for the Kohanim to be holy and not to marry those women who are prohibited to them.
Okay. That's number 25. And the round of applause. Round of applause for page 44.
Okay.
Yay. Okay, now we're gonna go to page 26. I mean, it's not page, but paragraph 26. We have 4 minutes. Who's next? Eliezer,
I just read.
you just read. Alan just read. Oh, so Mayor, back to Mayor.
Oh, back to me already. Okay. Negative mitzvot of the Torah, which depend on the male organ. It is prohibited to intimately approach any one of the women which a man is not allowed to marry. It is prohibited to marry off one's daughter to an old man because the father causes her to be promiscuous. It is prohibited for a man who raped a woman and subsequently married her to divorce her. It is prohibited for a man who wrongly accused his wife of infidelity to divorce her. It is prohibited for a man to marry with whom he performed chalitza, the rite of a widow removing a shoe from a surviving brother's foot. It is prohibited for a man who divorced his wife to remarry if she was married or betrothed to someone else in the interim. Oh. It is prohibited for a bastard to marry a Jewish woman. It is prohibited for a Jew to marry a bastardess. It is prohibited for a sterile man to marry a Jewish woman. It is prohibited to cohabit with a Gentile woman. Regarding one who cohabits with a Gentile woman, the verse in Malachi says, God will cut off any child or descendant from a man who does this. Zealous individuals are allowed to kill him if they discover the man and woman cohabitating. The Zohar is more strict regarding this illicit relation than all other prohibited relations. It is a pity that such people are found in the Christian cities. God, who is good, will atone. It is prohibited to masturbate, to rub one's organ with either his hand or foot and cause a wanting emission of seed. A person who does this is considered like a murderer, is obligated to the death penalty, and is in excommunication from the sages of Israel. This was the sin of Onan and the generation of the flood. It is prohibited to be secluded with any one of the illicit relationships, whether she's young or old. It is prohibited to engage in homosexual relation. Both parties are obligated to death by stoning. A person who delays evacuating his bowels violates, you shall not make yourself detestable. One who delays urinating violates, you shall not make yourself detestable, and there shall not be among you a sterile male, for delaying is a cause of a great risk for sterility. A person should not delay for even a moment, so as not to cause himself the inability to procreate.
Yeah.
It is a heinous sin. Any sin which is related to illicit relations is very severe and too great to bear. Every place where you find a prevention of an illicit relation, you find holiness. The prevention of immorality needs to result from the purification of thought, speech, action, hearing, and seeing. One must verily distance oneself from the slightest infraction, then he will be holy. Wow.
Yashikoya. Okay, perfect timing, 11:30. Oh, now it just became 11:31. Okay, so
Close enough.
Yashikoya, everybody, and all the best to Eliezer and Mayor. Have a great day.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you.